Again, they are telling me to give you the topic first and the steps next. Now, in healing a marriage, there are two basic steps. I know this is kind of crazy. How can there only be two steps to healing a marriage? But when you boil it down, that's exactly what there is. Hi, Laura. Hi, Mari. Hi, Rashida. Hi, Mandy. It's so good to see you all. I'm so excited to discuss this topic because I have been on both sides of it. I first have a failed marriage, which was 20 years ago with the father of my son. And now I have a healthy, happy marriage for the last 6 years. I had 14 years of being a single mom. So I definitely have a lot of personal experience around this topic. And I think that whenever you listen to a speaker on a topic, it's great if they have experience on it. So I will be bringing that forward along with a lot of experience working with clients over the last 25 years and being able to listen to their stories. And then with my psychology and my communication degree, and then also all of my holistic training, becoming a certified consulting hypnotist back in 2015 was a huge space for me to really start working with clients and finding out what was really behind the failure of their marriage. And then also doing the divine channeling, the NLP and the life coaching, the neuro linguistics programming component. And as a divine channel, when divine brings the messages in and gives the answers for the client, you get to learn so much. So, over the years of doing this professionally with a private practice, and now in the last 4 years, I started my agency, and we have a team of people and the academy where we certify others now to become a certified consulting hypnotist and psychic medium reader, as well as divine channel NLP life coach. I have been working with hundreds of actual practitioners around the world and thousands of clients. So I'll be bringing all of that to the forefront today on our topic of healing a marriage. So welcome. Thank you for coming in today and investing an hour of your day with us, or of your week actually, on such an important topic. Okay, so I said there are two steps, and I know that that might sound lofty to healing a marriage, but as I have boiled down all of my experience and with all the clients that I've worked with as well, and my own personal, that's what I've come up with. So let's get started. Step number one. Step number one is to assess whether you should heal the marriage or not, or the relationship, the romantic relationship or not. And inside of that is a number of things that we use to assess whether we should heal it or not. Okay. I'm going to go over a few of those things first before we go into step number two, which I'm sure is the part that you were really coming here for. But the thing is sometimes what we think we need to know is not what we need to know. It's oftentimes what we need to know is what we didn't think we needed to know. And that's why we needed to know it. Because if we don't know what we're looking for information, then we don't always find it. So let's get started with the assessment portion. Now, the best way to know if the marriage is something you should be healing and saving, or if you should be walking away, is to first look at who are you becoming inside of this marriage? Does the marriage make you become a better person? And sometimes it's enjoyable to become a better person, and sometimes it's not enjoyable. That doesn't determine whether it's the right marriage for you, whether it's enjoyable or not enjoyable to become a better version of yourself, by the way, because there's many of us who fight having to become a better version of ourselves. Many of us are looking for the path of least resistance. We just want to find a romantic relationship, or we just want to find a marriage that is easy. And we're looking for it to just be smooth, simple, enjoyable, perfect, no work, no effort. That's how some of us are. Others of us, we know it's going to be work, but personally growing was not something we signed up for. We thought that our romantic relationship was going to be more of a pleasurable thing. That's supposed to be something that makes us feel good all the time, makes us feel happy, makes us feel in the mood for romance. And I don't agree with that. I don't believe that the marriage that's right for you is always going to make you feel happy, good, and in the mood for romance and in the mood for sex and all those other things. Because after studying in the psychological reviews, as well as studying life in general for myself personally and all my clients, and then working in a professional capacity with other colleagues that do this professionally as well over the last 25 years, what I have learned is that the purpose of a relationship, the point of a romantic relationship, is to escalate your personal growth. And if you're the type of person who really loves personally growing and becoming a better version of yourself, then you might enjoy the journey. Maybe. If you're not the type of person who enjoys personal growth and you'd rather just be on what's called autopilot and just kind of skim through life or zoom through life, you're probably going to hate it when you're in the right relationship. Now, I know you may not have been expecting to hear that from me, but I myself had to train myself how to recognize, for me personally, that the relationship that I am in currently right now, the right one, it forces me to become that next stealthier, better version of myself. Now, some of us learn and become and transform in an easy way. Some of us are just like, hey, let me find whatever I can do to work at becoming my better version of me. Others of us hate it and we don't want to do it. We just want a fucking break. Thank you very much. But some of us, after we've been working our asses off at our day job or our job in general, our career, or as our caretaker and mother of our children, since this is the Win Win Women Network, this is primarily women audience, although we do have men as well. And since we're going out into 195 nations worldwide with the recorded portion of this that'll go on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, and all that, I'm speaking to people from all around the world. All of us have something in common. Being a parent or a caregiver, can tax on us. Even if we absolutely adore our children, we could absolutely love them to death, be willing to run across the planet barefoot and come back again all in one day if we had to save their life. And at the same time, we do need a break because we are human beings. We have to have our respite. We have to have our self-care, our time off, where we can just forget being a parent for a little while and relax. And then, of course, when they get into an easier space, if that's possible, I haven't found that yet because they're always needing something, but in a different way as they age. It's just becomes more enjoyable if you've really put in the heavy lifting of parenting. I have found that if you don't put the heavy lifting in of parenting when they're younger, you're going to work your ass off for the rest of your life with parenting. And I remember the doctor who told me that when my son was little. She said, if you work really, really hard right now, put in all the heavy lifting until he gets into college, then you'll have a good life. If you don't put the heavy lifting in and work really hard as a parent while they're young, you will be working really hard to deal with the monster that you raised. And possibly they'll be living in your basement and potentially you'll be raising the grandkids that they can't figure out how to raise themselves. And that scared me to death. So that got me onto I'm going to put the heavy lifting in now while they're young. Well, that presents a problem on the marriage because when you're putting the heavy lifting in with the parenting component, then the marriage part, you're hoping, okay, come on, you're my person. You should just make my life easy peasy and it should just be all romance and all joy and all fluff. And in our fairy tale world of our brains, sometimes as women, and I can't speak for all of us because I can only speak for the people who I've talked to over the years, which is a lot, thousands of people that I've talked to in my private practice, in my agency, my academy, and speaking on stages and working private one-on-one with clients. I have found that most of us, myself included, would just love it if it would just be this fairy tale where we just walk along the beach holding hands. We agree on everything. We easily get along both in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom. Or we easily get along with like our ideas on life, our choices on how to manage our money, our choices on how to manage our self-care time, the vacations, our sex time, all the time, all the things that we're doing. And it's just come so natural and without any work. Okay. That doesn't make us personally grow though. So the best thing is if there is a balance of that, like some of it comes easy and some of it is work where you're working on figuring out like what you're going to agree on. And sometimes what if what you need as a woman, I'm just going to talk for women right now, since this is the Win-Win Women Network that I am the TV host on. Sometimes as women, we want our partner to do the heavy lifting. We're like, well, the husband can do that. In my case, my husband, wife can do that. You know, they're the one that's got the masculine energy on the higher note. You know, we're supposed to be more on the higher note of feminine, but that's not always the case, by the way. Some of us women are far more masculine, and sometimes our husbands are far more feminine. And that is totally okay, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, in a heterosexual couple or a same sex couple, the feminine and the masculine ebbs and flows back and forth, right? But sometimes we just want them to do all the hard work and we can just be the princess or the queen and go, well, I want this, you know, make me this, do this for me. And we kind of sometimes expect them to have to take the hard jobs. Now, I've also met women where we think we should do all the hard jobs and we just let them have the easy peasy time. And I've met, I think it's almost like 60-40, 60% that the husband or the masculine should do it, 40% they should. But either way, it's not about that. It's about who are you both becoming? And you have to look at yourself as an individual, what your soul contracts are, what your soul missions are, and what your life journey has been thus far. Okay. Also, what past lives are you healing? What past lives are you healing with your partner, by the way, your spouse, the one you're married to, or the one that you're in the relationship with? Do you realize that potentially the two of you are together and you might fight like cats and dogs for a certain period of your marriage or relationship, and you might not? Okay. Every relationship looks different. You can't compare your relationship to your girlfriend's relationship or to your friend that's a guy or whatever. You can't compare. Here's why. Because those two individuals that are in the relationship both have their soul journeys, their soul missions, their soul contracts, what they signed up to come here to do in this world, what they have signed up to learn, their development of where they have to elevate their soul's evolvement. And as they evolve and enlighten to the next level, and then what they have to accomplish here on a soul mission or missions. Now, you might have not chose a vacation life this time. And you might have chose that the first chapter is boot camp, the second chapter is a vacation. And you might decide that you're going to make your next chapter a vacation because you're going to stop fighting it. Because, you know, if we don't fight what we came here to do and who we are and who we have to become in order to do what we came to do, and we decide to surrender, then the next chapter and all the chapters after can be our vacation, because it's in the place of fighting who we are and who we are to become and what we are to do that we cause ourselves misery. And then it bleeds into our marriage. It bleeds into our relationship. And it's easy to play the blame game and blame our spouse and just say, well, you're the reason why I'm not happy. Or I don't enjoy that you always have an answer for everything, or I don't enjoy that you never have anything to say to me. So we start nitpicking them. Well, you never give me any advice, or you always tell me what to do. And we nitpick, and then we focus on how they're the problem, because it's easier to say that they're the problem than we're the problem. Then I meet other people where they don't nitpick at all the other person. They just blame everything on themselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. It's all my fault. Either way, it's an extreme if you're extremely picking on the other one or extremely picking on yourself. Instead, we have to come to the middle of the road of the logic of it. So I know boiling romance down to logic is probably not a romantic thing, right? Because romance is just airy fairy and woo, right? And as soon as we have to take our romantic relationship and turn it into logic, it's like, well, where's the fun in that? Guess what? If you bring it to the logic and you make it the business of marriage, you open up for the freedom of the fun. Let me say that again. If you bring your romantic relationship to a place of logic and you boil it down to who she or he is and who you are, and then your soul contracts, your soul missions, and what you're here to do, and then what your past lives are and who you were in the past and what you're healing from the past, current life, as well as the past life in this life. If you boil all the logic down, and I know some people would go, Camille, that's logic. I know, because this is not a mainstream show by any means. And we are on the Faith and Inspiration channel on the Win Win Women Network on Roku and Amazon and all those. So you might go, okay, well, that's Camille's version of logic, but not certainly the mainstream version. That is correct. After struggling in life for a long time, probably 14 years, I finally found a whole bunch of information that is not mainstream that healed my life, my son's life, and tons of clients all across the world. I have thousands of clients all across the world that this training has already healed their life, and they're just continuing to go higher and higher. And many of them are in my academy now, training and certifying in these modalities of past life regressions, psychic medium readings, and hypnosis and NLP, and all of the things that we can use to get into our subconscious mind and into our past life to understand who we are today. Okay. So it's healed so many people's lives. It's undeniable. And people that come to me usually have tried a lot of things before they find me. They've usually already failed a lot. Like myself, I failed a lot before I found the tools that I have found that are able to heal lives. So if we boil it down to logic and we turn it into the business of marriage, then we create that structure and that platform around it. And then we're able to find the freedom for fun and play and romance. So we have to have the business and the logic. It's almost like a box that we create of understanding of each of us, the two people that are in the relationship. And then once we realize what we're supposed to be becoming and transforming into, then we can have fun with it instead of fighting about the fact that we have to grow. If you think you're here in this world to just skate along and have fun and not personally grow and change, you're wrong. Okay. We are here to change. We are here to become the next best version of ourselves, and not just change one time, but change multiple times. So each year we should be leveling up another level higher in our enlightenment, in our personal understanding, our self-awareness, our conscious awareness, who we are, and finding out more about ourselves and about our partner, about the person we're married to, and really understanding who they are becoming and maybe where they are fighting or struggling, because both of us in this marriage are either struggling at something or excelling at something at any given moment. And sometimes it's both. So each person is excelling in some areas, struggling in other areas, and really having an understanding for that, and then attempting to help each other. Okay. So that analysis that I'm giving you is our first place where we decide, am I supposed to heal this marriage? So now, with all of that in mind, we say to ourselves, is this relationship causing me to become the better version of myself, whether it's enjoyable or not enjoyable? Because sometimes it's not enjoyable. Sometimes what you have to do to become the better version of yourself is you have to start advocating for yourself, because maybe you're the person who just keeps your mouth quiet, hopes everything goes well, hopes for the best, and then secretly is angry inside. And then every once in a while explodes, or one day just gives a divorce contract to the other one and never having communicated about it throughout your whole marriage. Okay. So sometimes that's the situation. Other times it's about that you are talking so very much that you're not in a listening place. So all of us can have different things going on of why we're not embracing the journey of learning, the journey of becoming, and the journey of transforming. So if you're in a hard spot in your marriage right now, or in your romantic relationship right now, here's what I want you to ask yourself in order to assess the step number one out of the 2 steps that I'm training on today in this TV show. In order to assess step number one, ask yourself, what do I have to do and who would I have to become in order to make this marriage work? Now, of course, you could be happy about asking that question, or you could be mad about it. It doesn't really matter. Okay. You could be enjoying yourself, or you could be feeling like you're dragging yourself uphill with no clothes on, naked and bleeding. Okay. Either way, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with that. Some of us want to take the easy way out. We want to ditch and run. I mean, there are people who have 8 ex-husbands. I mean, there are women who are famous for having 8 ex-husbands. Okay. Some are famous for 2 or 3 ex-spouses, right? So at some point, ditching and running is not working, right? And there must be a lesson of who we are to become in that relationship. If a relationship is not forcing us to grow and become a new version, it's not even a relationship that's necessary. Okay. Relationships that are good and successful are necessary. If all it is somebody is your yes man or your yes woman and just goes, you're perfect. You're perfect. Everything about you, I love. You're perfect. I love you. Oh, you can do no wrong. Your shit doesn't stink. Do you realize that although you think you want that, after a while, for some people, that gets old. After a while, for some people, that's fine, but you're not growing, you're not becoming, and you are not enjoying. And if you have gotten to that point in your relationship and you're like, no, Camille, I've been married for a while, we fought it out, kicked it out, and now we're in this great place. Wonderful. As long as you know that you're growing and transforming and up leveling every year and becoming the next best version of yourself and really on track with your soul missions. Okay. And I say that because some people do that easily, but people who show up to a TV show about healing a marriage either need to heal their own, or they're wanting to help someone else heal, or they want to at least understand what they did wrong in the past. I know for myself, I analyzed it for years. How did I end up divorced? I mean, that certainly wasn't my intention 20 years ago when I divorced my husband. And I was like, how did I fail at this? What could I have done differently? And I did figure out what I could have done differently. I do know, but you know how I figured it out? Over the years of being single and fighting tooth and nail to try to figure out how to be healthy, how to be happy, and then how to have a good relationship, and meeting a number of people, dating until realizing it's not right, and trying to figure out the recipe. And so in that learning process, I figured out, probably maybe 20 years later, what I could have done 20 years ago. Well, guess what? For me, I realized that the learning of who I became after the divorce was what I had to do. So therefore, I was able to put it to bed of, I was supposed to go through that, because I would never be who I am or learn. I wouldn't even be running this business, because I went into extreme radical self-care, self-healing, and then fell in love with the journey and found out that was actually my divine calling. So in that space of tragedy and sadness and sorrow and fighting to try to create a healthy person in myself and trying to figure out how to have a happy relationship with someone else romantically, I found out that that was my divine calling. So some of you are only struggling because you're supposed to learn how to heal it to help other people heal it, because that's part of your soul mission, is to be helping others. You're a practitioner, you're a life coach, you're a healer, and you might have a different title than that, but that's part of it. And the only reason why you had to go through shit was because you had to learn how to help others. So again, that would be understanding what your soul missions are here, right? So when we go into the assessment and we say, okay, well, I'm really unhappy in my marriage right now. I'm struggling in this area, this area, this area. You ask yourself, write this down. What do I have to do and who do I have to become to make this marriage work? And if your answer is something like, geez, I would have to become super, super patient. I would have to listen a lot more. I would have to be caring on a level that I don't really want to be caring on, or compassionate on a level that I don't really want to be compassionate on. Or I'd have to be bored to tears listening to the BS that my partner wants to talk about. Maybe that is who you're supposed to become next. Maybe who you have to become to make your marriage work or your romantic relationship work, the extremely patient person, the extremely understanding, the one that's a good listener, the one that has to listen to stuff that bores you to tears. Maybe that's your next self-development move. Maybe the opposite. Maybe you're supposed to be the person who says, listen, bucko, this is not okay. And if this continues, I will divorce you. Your next level of development might be self-advocation. Your next level of development might be speaking up, walking in the true essence of who and what you are, and making no apologies. In fact, when I did a ton of readings in the relationship I had prior to my marriage, and I got married 6 years ago, so I had this relationship probably 8 years ago that I thought was going to turn into a marriage, and then it didn't. And I was able to do like a past life regression because at that point I had already been studying the past life regressions. I started all that back in like 2012, right? And I started studying the hypnosis, the NLP, and I started really wrapping my head around these alternative ways to heal our lives. And so I was using all them to try to figure out what the heck. And I already knew I had past lives with this person. In fact, they even acknowledged it. And I explained like what I saw, and they said, yeah, I see the same thing. So we were on the same page. However, then when the relationship was super, super struggling, I was really unhappy. The other person said that they were happy, but I'm like, well, I'm not. So that means we're not happy. I'm having to sacrifice way too much. The benefit package in this relationship sucks compared to the fucking amount of work I have to do to make this relationship work, is what I told the person. Well, guess what? For me, that was my next leveling up. My next leveling up was to be able to say that. And that person was like, well, okay, well, can I just be friends with benefits until you find the right one? And I was like, no, what benefits? You have no benefits to offer. If I'm going to have a friends with benefits, it's going to be somebody who has benefits. And I'm not having that. I'm looking for my marriage. I'm looking for my divine equal spouse, the one I'm going to live and spend my life with, and that I'm going to grow and expand and enjoy. And that is not you, because I'm not enjoying you, because you're too much about you. There's no compromise. It's all you. There's nothing. I have to twist myself inside out. And I then did a reading on, well, what is the karma here? If there is if we have past lives together and we're together right now, are we healing our past life? Well, sure enough, we were. In fact, there was karma. In fact, when I did the reading on it, I found out that what was supposed to come out of it is I was supposed to break up with this person. They were supposed to live the rest of their life without me, knowing that I was the best thing that happened to them, because that was their learning lesson. And then they would have to grow up and become a new version of themselves in order to get someone of a good quality. And for me, my lesson was I had to stick up for myself and say, no more of this. This is how it's going to have to look. We're going to have a compromise, and we're going to have to care about both people being happy in this relationship and not just you. And since you are unwilling to do that, and we've tried several times in several different ways, we've had several conversations, it's not going to be what we're going to do. In fact, I'm going to ask you to release me because I know we have a past life together. I'm going to ask you to let go of me now and release me. And he said, you're right. And I will. And I found out that it wasn't to heal the relationship. The healing in that relationship was for me to walk away and for him to learn his lesson from having a person that he really did want in his life walking away. And so I became the next best version of myself, not by staying in the relationship, but by leaving the relationship and speaking my truth, and not just putting my tail between my legs and running away and crying, but having full-blown deep conversations for many, many months about it, and communicating on a very truthful level and really speaking my truth and asking questions and asking him to speak his truth. The communication, and then having it be, you know what, we're going to part ways because what you want for a lifestyle and what I want for a lifestyle are two completely different things. And I cannot figure out how I could potentially in any way be happy in this lifestyle that you want. And you can't figure out how to be happy in the lifestyle that I want. So we can't be happy together. And in that space, I skyrocketed because up until that point in my life, I had never really fully had full-blown, truthful, authentic conversations and stuck up for myself and advocated. I might have said something one day and went, rah, 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 when I was getting divorced, and maybe tried to have a little bit of conversations and didn't really force the issue because the other party didn't really want to talk. And I really didn't say, hey, listen, bucko, we got to talk. It was kind of like I put my tail between my legs and kind of ran off and didn't really figure out how to make the communication work. Now I know what I could have done, but I learned that over 20 years. I would have never been able to do that back 20 years ago. It's who I became as a result. So what I'm saying to you is who you have to become might be that you have to walk away, or it might be that you have to stay. Now, let me say this. I find that most people leave a relationship too quick, too fast, and too easy. And they regret it later on, usually within 7 years. They regret it that they walked away. Okay. So I want to help prevent some of you from 7 years or sooner regretting that you walk away after realizing what you could have done to save it. I find that more often than the other one, than the one of where I know I was supposed to walk away. And so I feel God is coming in, divine is coming in really strongly and making sure that the collective consciousness of the audience that watches my TV show, that there's more people in that category. Of course, not everyone, because we're all unique and different. All right. So that's all food for thought of how you're going to need to analyze, is this growing? And the growing pains might be growing pains when you're personally growing, both of you, your husband and yourself, or your wife and yourself. The growing pains might be really strong, but they are there because no one else on this planet could make you grow like that person at this moment in time. That might be the person that is the only one that is able to either rein you in or cause you to be motivated enough to personally grow, even though it might piss you off, by the way. Now, some of us find it easy and we're like, oh, I'm growing. Yay. And I am very happy for you that you find it easy. But the people who are probably tuning into this show are not enjoying it. And if you are enjoying it, then you're probably a smaller population enjoying the personal development process inside your romantic relationship, because that's what I'm talking about. Okay, now step number 2. You thought, oh, why did she talk all the time on step number 1? Because step number 1 is more important than step number 2, because the analysis of is this relationship useful to both of you is more important than step number 2. And here's step number 2. If you have analyzed that it is the right relationship and you are growing, or the other one is growing, or you're both growing, and you do have to be growing, and you might not be growing because you're fighting it. Remember that you might just be unwilling to grow. You might just be either being entitled, just being an entitled asshole, or you might just be being a jerk and you just don't want to grow. And you're like, well, if it makes me grow or change, then I don't want to be in it. I'm going to go find something easy. You're not going to be happy. I'll tell you that right now. You need to go into that space of, I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to change. I'm willing to become the highest and best version of myself. I'm willing to transform. I'm willing. I used to say, my kid is hard. I need a happy relationship. I've already got a struggle being a single mom and a kid that's sick back when he was younger. He's not anymore, but when he was younger. And I was like, whoever I date, it better be easy peasy and a piece of cake, which is, again, all I was looking for was like a relaxed and a time of relaxation, because that's what I needed. So some of us are saying that right now. Listen, I'm working really hard at my career. I just want someone who entertains me and makes me feel good. Okay, that's fine. And it can be like a space holder for you until you find your divine equal spouse, or until you decide to step into the deeper part of your marriage that you're in right now. Because right now you might be telling your spouse, I just need a vacation. And then I'm willing to grow with you in the next year because I need to get through this year. It's my first year at my new job. Next year, let's work on our marriage. Okay, fine. But at least be consciously aware. At least intentionally know what the heck you're doing. Don't just accidentally be miserable. Be intentionally logical and business oriented about it so that you create that space of freedom for fun, romance, and enjoyment. Okay, step number 2, fight like shit to make it happen. And don't be afraid of the work involved. Don't be afraid to have to spend a lot of time having a lot of communication and maybe having to convince the other person to communicate because they don't want to communicate. And you might have to be very creative about how you're going to convince them to communicate and get on the same page. And you're probably going to have to surround yourself with a team of thinkers for you, other people who can create thinking and ideas, what I call a village of people of support that are going to help you come up with new ways to attack your relationship, to figure out how to get the momentum going with it again, to either wake it up or do CPR on it, or heal the sex part of it, or heal the relationship talking part, heal the financial part of it, heal the fact that you had a bad thing happen in your marriage, but you don't want to let the marriage go, and be able to speak your authentic truth. But you're going to need people to help you figure out creative ways to do it. And you're not going to be lazy. You're not going to just be entitled and just sit back and go, well, it should be easy, or it's not good enough for me. Instead, dig in, fight like heck, figure it out. Because when you do figure it out, you open up that space of freedom and romance and enjoyment, and you're thankful. And then you live the rest of your life as a vacation life. And then every once in a while, there might be a little thing that pops up that creates like, oh no, we're starting to downward spiral again. I see us going in the wrong direction. So then you go and you pull up your problem solving skills again, but this time it'll be easier. You'll fix it quicker because you'll start finding the little tools that work for you and your spouse, and you'll be able to nip it in the bud. But you can't have a big ego and think that you're better than the other person that you're in the marriage with. And you can't think, oh, well, they're smarter, or I'm smarter. Oh, they're better than me, or I'm better than them. And you also can't think, well, this shouldn't be work. If it's so much work, then forget it. I don't want to do it. All that has to go away. All of this negative thinking or egotistical thinking or bullshit or just being an asshole, it all has to go away. You both have to stop being assholes, possibly. And that might not be pertinent to you. Remember, I'm talking to a large audience, to women around the world in 195 nations. And so I'm trying to hit several options, because whenever we talk with a person, there's a myriad of possibilities of what could be going on with them as an individual. So it's fight like hell, create new ideas, work at it. And pretty soon you find that easy space. You will find where it becomes easy then. It won't be hard forever, but you might have to then pick up your tools every once in a while and tweak it, tweak it, tweak it. but you might have never done the heavy lifting. You might have been married for 20 years already, or 30 years already, or 40 years already, but you never went into a space of really analyzing who each other are, who each other is, what your past lives are, what your soul contracts are, what your soul missions are, and what your soul contracts are together. The two of you have soul contracts together. You haven't gone into a space of finding those. And if you haven't gone into that deep, profound understanding of who the two of you are, then you are leaving so much amazing, wonderful on the table, because you could find absolute bliss in this marriage that you're in already, but you haven't been willing to do the deep excavation, the work. And the work might only take you a few weeks or a few months. It might not take a few years. That's very rare. It's usually attacking it for a 90-day period to a 6-month period that you can get the deep understanding and the creative ideas. And when I say have a team of thinkers around you, I provide classes for that. I've got the Unleash Your Fully Empowered Self and Happy Life course. I've got the Meet, Court, and Marry Your Divine Equal Spouse course. I've got the Quantum Leap of Confidence for Love, Health, and Wealth course. And those are all on the personal development side of our academy. And then, of course, the Psychic Medium Development 3-day workshop, the Past Life Discovery 3-day workshop. And then we've got the certification classes, becoming a certified psychic medium reader, becoming a certified consulting hypnotist, a certified divine channel NLP life coach, master teacher levels 1, 2, and 3. We have all that for the business side of it. Then we've got the Happy and Rich Divine Business Leadership for healers, coaches, authors, speakers, and inventors, where we're building your businesses. But that's on the business side of it. So on the personal side, you want to create a space where you've got some people around you who are rooting for you, where you can say, okay, here's what I'm doing. And then we have that in our residency program for all the people in the certification courses, because you each do a session on each other so that you can hand in your client profiles, submit them, and get certified. Well, in that space of doing sessions on each other, you're getting a session. And that's your people. That's your village. That's where you're problem solving with the other women and men that are working on their lives, that are going and they're seeking deep, profound understanding of their lives. They're seeking answers, and they're not afraid to work, and they're not afraid to throw their ego aside. They're not afraid to say, okay, maybe I was a jerk before, but I'm going to unjerk myself and I'm going to dig in. And maybe it's that you're going to do the deep analysis and find out, are you supposed to heal this marriage? Maybe that's your deep work, because of course that is step number 1. Step number 1 is to do the analysis. And then step number 2 is to do the work. Right. And I promise you that with that work, you will come to a happy resolution of either knowing that you're supposed to walk away from the relationship, or knowing that you have a support team that's going to continue to help you create new ideas, myself included, as your coach. And over the next 6 months, we will, if you're willing to actively work on it and you're not afraid of work, then you will get to a happy resolution of healing your relationship. It might even take 12 months. And then you'll be able to create with that space of structure, where inside the structure line, you get to be unstructured. You get to be unfiltered. You get to have fun. You get to relax. You get to go into romance, because we have to have that logical business part around the space of no logic. This, when you're really having an amazing orgasm, there's no logic to that. That's just total light and airy, fun, exciting, beautiful energy if you're with a person that you have worked on your relationship with. And you know what? When you have to work on the relationship, it makes it more fulfilling. You have more depth. You have more roots in the ground. Your tree is able to grow really big and thick because the roots are very deep, and the roots come from work and deep, profound analysis and understanding and acceptance and surrender to the amount of work that is needed to become the person you are supposed to become in this lifetime. In this incarnation, you are supposed to become the higher, more transformed, more elevated, more enlightened version of yourself. And it's only within relationships that you grow. We don't grow when we're not in a relationship. We kind of just skate along, or we grow about being unhappy, but we don't get forced to become a better version of ourselves unless we are unless we're sparring with the other person and we're sparring back and forth. That in that sparring, that is when we have to change how we look at things, change whether we're being more compassionate, more understanding, or whether we're speaking up more and being more of an advocate for ourselves instead of just being quiet and saying nothing. It could go either way with us. And there might be time frames when we're doing one or the other. Sometimes there's time frames where we have to speak more. Other times there's time frames where we have to be more quiet and listen more. So ask yourself right now, in your own relationship, are you in the space right now where you need to become more of a listener? Or are you in the space where you need to become more of an advocate for yourself? Or do you need to find a more of a balance of the half and half? Maybe you have to do more listening and less of the advocation, or vice versa. So analyze yourself. Self-analysis is the way to transform our life. Self-awareness has to happen first before we can analyze ourselves. If we don't decide to become consciously aware and self-aware of who we really are and how we really act and how we really respond to trouble or difficulty, then we will never be able to heal our life. And once we become the observer, our self-observer, and sit back and observe ourselves as to who we are, then we become self-aware. Then we become able to do a self-analysis. And then with that, we can come up with the solution for self and the solution for our marriage. And if we're going to keep the marriage, of course, and then the solution for the marriage if we're keeping it, or the romantic relationship. So with that said, I would like to open up into our interactive portion where the recording goes off. So thank you all for showing up, watching our show. Please tune in next time. We have a wonderful schedule. And as I look down at my phone to remember what our next show is, it's Becoming a Soulpreneur. And that's on October 3rd, Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard New York time. And that's all about building a business of your own that's soul aligned. So I will see you next time on October 3rd, and join us for the interactive portion of today by staying tuned.